What's going on, everybody? This is your boy Half Deezy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you haven't been here before, please go on ahead and make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be doing new videos like this pretty regularly now. I'm going to come back. All right. Sorry I've been gone so long. But anyways, this video is on the Tupac Shakur case. For some of you who may not be aware or even familiar, Keefe D, who was a suspect, but ended up basically trying to cut a deal and was implicated in the murder, essentially. But he's just been going around like for years telling everybody about it and so on and so forth. But I guess finally Vegas PD went on ahead and executed a search warrant, went to his house, found a bunch of stuff, confiscated it. I do not know if they have him in custody, but in this video that we're about to watch real quick, because I'm going to show you what happened before we get into this new news that just came out probably about 5-6 hours ago on the case. Apparently, from the evidence that they confiscated from the house, could bring an arrest, which we're going to talk about some of that stuff when I get to that clip. So I'm going to be pausing and kind of like giving a little bit of commentary and stuff like that. But anyways, let's go on ahead and jump into it real quick. All right.
Thank you for opening that door. Come on out with your hands up and your hands empty, please. Go ahead, hands up, guys. Come on, walk out. Walk towards the spare cat. Come on down the driveway to that sidewalk.
I don't know. I think that's him. Because you can hear him yell stuff to the cops.
Stop right there. Go ahead and put down your cigarettes, please. Put down your cigarettes. Put your hands up. Keep your hands up, man. You guys need to stop moving around. Put your hands up. Sir, you need to put your phone down. Put your phone down. Put your hands on top of your head. Hands on top of your head right now. Hands on top of your head.
He said he was calling his lawyer.
Sir, now go ahead and turn away from us. Turn away from us. You're going to walk back to the sound of my voice. Keep walking back.
Yeah. That's
When I
crazy.
realized what
It only took about a minute, as you can see. I think now, of course, the news, I don't know, maybe they were blowing it out of proportion. They were like, it was a standoff and all that other shit. So I don't know. But let's get into the clip on the new news. Again, this only came out probably like 5-6 hours ago, but there's some interesting things in here that I guess like I should have known. For anybody who's seen like prior stuff on the case and like really look, because I used to watch everything that would come out on it. So I guess I should have known this shit about Keefe D, but for some reason it just surprised me. And then when we get in the video, I'll pause it and then I'll tell you like, oh, that's what I was talking about, because it's pretty crazy.
This case, I think that there is very likely going to be an indictment.
Nearly 27 years after rapper Tupac Shakur was killed, an arrest could finally be coming following a search of a Crips gang leader's home.
So I think, he's talked himself into a potential murder charge. And that's why this thing got rolling again.
The officer who heard Tupac Shakur's last words and a detective who investigated Tupac's murder discussed the case.
The search warrant is a good indication that they have an intention of finally solving this thing officially.
Thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime. I'm Anjanette Levy. Tupac Shakur was one of rap's biggest stars in 1996 when he was shot several times while riding in a BMW driven by Suge Knight on the Las Vegas Strip. Many people thought the case would never be solved, but there's now hope that an arrest could be in the works. Last month, Las Vegas Metro Police executed a search warrant in nearby Henderson. The home is owned by Keefe Davis, who goes by Keefe D.
Yeah, so they said last month. It was in July. You know what I mean? It's only August 3rd. So that's why I was saying like a couple weeks ago. So check it out.
A South Compton Crips gang leader. Keefe has said in his book, Compton Street Legend, and in interviews, that he was in the car with the man who killed Tupac Shakur. The shooter, according to Keefe D, his nephew,
R.I.P.
Orlando
Eazy-E.
Lane Anderson. This is what Keefe D told.
I have no idea why Eazy-E is in there. I think that's from his book, maybe. Like he had pictures, or because they confiscated a lot of stuff. They said he had pictures, videos, hard drives, like all kinds of crazy stuff. So, but that's cool, you know. R.I.P. Eazy-E.
Told BET's The Death Row Chronicles.
You said the shots came from the back. Big Dre.
Okay, so that makes sense. Death Row, and then Kids Day had to be, yeah, got it. Oh, but check this out. This is one of those points.
Orlando. Who shot Tupac?
To keep it from the code of the streets. It just came from the back seat, bro.
Keep it from the code. Let's keep it on the code of the streets. It came from the back seat. He's already said in a recording in other videos that Orlando Anderson was the one who leaned over Dresta and shot out the window and killed Tupac. You know? Well, it didn't kill him, but, you know, ultimately he died from his wounds, you know, because I know there are people like, he didn't die until he got to the hospital. Like, come on, dude. Come on. All right, but check it out.
The shots that killed Tupac Shakur were fired on the Las Vegas Strip on September 7th, 1996. Earlier that night, Tupac, Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight, and their entourage went to the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. Keefe D and his nephew, Orlando Lane Anderson, and two of their friends were also there. Keefe D told LAPD Detective Greg Kading more than a decade ago, in a proffer that couldn't be used against him, that the shooting was retaliation.
Yeah, so you heard what she said. Like, he told them, the only reason why he told them is because he was essentially, I guess, given immunity and something in that case, because Keefe D was already, they were questioning him about another case, but in return for this information, they were going to cut him slack on whatever he had going on in the background that they brought him in on originally. So that's why she was saying all that, because I don't know what he thought. I guess there's a lot of points to this, but let's just keep going.
After Tupac jumped Orlando and beat him up at the casino. Surveillance cameras recorded the fight. Tupac was angry that Lane had stolen his necklace years prior in Compton.
Okay. He did not steal that from Tupac. It was stolen from another Death Row member. And that night, that Death Row member came up to Pac and the crew, you know, the little entourage was like, yo, that's the dude that took my chain. He was wearing the chain, so that's when they went up and, you know, did what they did in the video. So he did not take it from Pac. Okay, it was taken from some of that. I know what she's meaning and stuff, but people will take that shit out of context.
Suge Knight and the entourage left the casino quickly. Later that night, Chris Carroll, a sergeant on bike patrol with the Las Vegas Metro PD, was the first officer to arrive after Tupac was shot.
Suge Knight, who was the driver, he had exited the vehicle, and he's just shooting blood out of the side of his head. He's flowing blood out of the side of his head. And he's running around screaming and yelling. So what had happened, as it turns out, is he had been shot in the head, and the bullet penetrated his scalp, but not his skull. Mm-hmm. So he's still able to completely function, but the blood is just flying out of the side of his head.
Side note real quick, this police officer that's talking right now, retired police officer, he actually met up with one of the outlaws, and they did it was like a show. I can't remember where exactly I saw it. I was wishing I knew so I could bring it up because I wanted to like kind of share that. But anyways, he met one of the outlaws and like told him everything that happened, and they had never met before. So I thought that was kind of cool. But that's something y'all should check out.
So he's yelling at me. I'm trying to get the door open. So when I did finally pull the door open, it opened up. Tupac, which I didn't know it was Tupac yet. Tupac was leaning against the side of the door. So when I opened the door, he kind of fell out, slumped out with the door as it opened. So I grabbed him with my left hand, and I, still have my gun in my right. And Suge Knight is yelling at Tupac. So I was asking him, what happened? Who shot you? Who did this? And he, for the first time, he's kind of acknowledging my presence, and he's looking in my eyes, and I'm looking at his, and I could tell he's trying to get a breath together because he's having a very hard time breathing. And he looks at me and he opened his mouth and he said, "F you." And after he said it, he kind of gurgled and coughed. His eyes rolled back. He lost consciousness. So that would be the last thing that he ever said in his life.
You see, now I saw on Instagram people were taking this out of context. They were like, because he was like, it was the last words that he spoke. They were. They were like, he's capping. He died at the hospital. Well, his last words and dying are two different things. You know, two different things. So, like you said, he said that to him, and then went to the hospital and basically was in a coma the entire time until he passed away. So.
Carroll said Tupac held to the no snitching street code until the very end. Members of his entourage did the same.
Nobody saw anything. They've got nothing to add. We have no idea. We don't know what happened. Nobody saw anything. A couple of them even said, we take care of this stuff ourselves. And, you know, I can even, I certainly don't agree with it, but, you know, the code, especially then, was you don't talk to the police, period, you know, under any circumstances. And I think the code was strong.
Yeah. Back then, coming up, like, not snitching actually meant something. Like, but now it's just like fucking whatever.
Then than it is now.
Tupac Shakur died days later
like
after his mom took him off life support. Despite the lack of cooperation from witnesses, Carroll said it became clear who the shooter was.
Well, Orlando Anderson was just a hardcore criminal guy. I mean, everybody.
He was well known in the streets. Like, you can watch some BG Knockout from Compton. There's an interview with him and Vlad, and he talks about him and stuff like that. And like, he was like a real street dude, man. Like, he wasn't like just some wannabe. Like, he was for real.
Knew he was a shooter. He'd done it, you know, God knows how many times. He lived the life of a criminal. He was a drug dealer.
Again with the easy, I don't know why they would, but just, I don't know.
He had allegedly robbed Tupac of a chain he was wearing in Compton. And that was, I guess, the start of.
Okay, and see, that's, the cop is wrong. It didn't come off Tupac's neck. It can, and you can do the research on your own. I could probably find a video if I do like an updated video on this and like show you guys what I'm talking about. But there is another video you can find where the death row chain. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm almost for certain that freaking it didn't come off Pac's neck. There's just no way that would have happened. Not his death row chain. Nah. He got robbed when he got shot in New York the first time, but after that I don't think he got robbed like that ever again. So that's why I said their information is, I believe, incorrect.
The hate between the two was that he robbed him. So
the following spring, in March 1997, someone shot and killed the notorious B.I.G. in Los Angeles. Years would pass without an arrest in either murder. LAPD Detective Greg Kading was later assigned to a task force to investigate Biggie's murder.
We were looking at the cold case reinvestigation of Christopher Wallace, Biggie Smalls. But there had always been speculation that Tupac and Biggie's murders were somehow connected. And so one easily kind of migrated into the other. But yes, initially we were just looking at Biggie's murder. But once we got Keefe D cornered and he confessed to his role in Tupac's murder, we began to look further into that.
Kading says Keefe D told him what happened the night of Tupac's murder in a proffer. Keefe D was under pressure to give up something, since the feds had evidence that tied him and his family to drug dealing. Orlando Anderson couldn't be prosecuted because he was murdered a year after killing Tupac Shakur.
When Keefe confessed, he implicated the other co-conspirators. And although his nephew, the shooter, Orlando Anderson, was dead, and DeAndre...
Now, he got killed. Supposedly, he was killed on a separate thing. It wasn't over Tupac. But I don't know. Again, it's been over 20 years. So, like, for them to get their information a little mixed up, you know, doesn't surprise me. I don't think it's on purpose, but I'm almost for certain it didn't have anything to do with Pac being killed. But then again, I could be wrong, but I'm almost for sure. I'll have to find it. I'm going to end up having to do another video just so I could post all this stuff, but yeah.
Smith, the other individual in the backseat of the Cadillac, which was the assailant vehicle, he was dead. But the driver, Terrence Brown, was still alive, as was a guy named Eric Martin. They call him Zip. He was a New York drug kingpin. And he was still alive, and he had provided the gun to Keefe D to use that night. He was still alive. So what our strategy was is to get Keefe D signed up as a informant, and then use.
That's the part that surprised me. They got him to become an informant. Like, I feel like, because, again, he admitted what had happened for the murder, because, like, I think I said this in the beginning, because of another thing that he had going on, right? But they were saying that was a proffer, whatever that is, right? But now they're saying after that, they got him to sign up as an informant. But, you know, you'll see
him to try to make headway into those other individuals. So that was our strategy, was to use Keefe D as a law enforcement tool, essentially, in order to try to get the other people to make incriminating statements.
Kading said the co-conspirators didn't give anything up to Keefe D.
Okay, so he didn't get any info. You know, he probably had it, but of course, you know, he probably just went on ahead and said, yeah, I'm going to do it for you. And then didn't give him anything, because I'm sure it happens all the time. But either way, he got what he needed, because apparently whatever happened with that case, they ended up, you know, doing something, you know, cutting him some kind of slack.
Fast forward to 2018, 3 years after filmmaker Mike Dorsey and Kading produced Murder Rap inside the Biggie and Tupac murders.
I reached out to Las Vegas police back in 2018 and alerted them when Keefe started doing these public interviews for the first time, starting with BET, his Death Row Chronicles interview that he did.
So you hear that? This dude went out there and reported this dude Keefe for going out there. So that's crazy to me too, man. Back in 2018, so which isn't that long ago. That's only like 5 years ago. But he was out there way before that. You know, so he could have got reported before, but this right here, I didn't know this. This is new to me.
Subsequently, he's done a ton of YouTube interviews where he suddenly started talking very publicly about things that he had only discussed with police, you know, as part of his proffer deal prior to that. They came out and interviewed me at my house, and that is the same detective who's leading the case now. So they reopened the case basically because we kept pushing for this to happen and kept telling him, look, he's telling this now, you know, to the public. Something, you know, that he does not have immunity for.
Last month, police seized electronics, .40 caliber ammunition, copies of Keefe D's book Compton Street Legend, marijuana, a Vibe magazine with Tupac on it, and a tub of photos from Keefe D's house. Dorsey says the search of Keefe D's home took him a little bit by surprise.
Like this guy, how many times can someone tell you they did it and their crew was a part of this before you believe them and take action? And like you said, he wrote his book, which was like, for me, it was almost like a 220-page confession to what him and his crew allegedly did that night in Las Vegas. So I had started to lose hope a little bit that maybe something would happen, but now for them to go this far with it, and I know that this, in my opinion, I think it's a very good detective on this case. I think that they are going to close this case.
Meanwhile, Chris Carroll remains skeptical after all of these years.
I don't like to see a guy openly bragging about participating in a murder and just kind of just rubbing everybody's face in it, saying, yeah, I did it. And there's not been anybody charged. And I'm just glad they're taking some action. And, you know, like I said, I don't think it will produce arrestable charges, but we'll see. You know, the one piece of physical evidence that, and probably the best piece that we do have, is the actual bullets that were inside of Tupac. We have those bullets. Unfortunately, we don't have a gun to match them to. So they don't really mean a lot unless you have a gun to match them to.
I've reached out to Las Vegas Metro Police for a comment. A spokesperson would only confirm a search warrant was executed. I've also tried to reach Keefe D. At the time of this recording, my call was not returned.
Yo, so excuse me, a couple interesting things there. Well, one, for the most part, is that the one retired officer says that there could be arrests, right, coming. He said, right, that the reason why they're going after they're gonna end up going after the other guy, the other dude who was in the car, because Keefe D implicated him in it, right? The cop said that in the interview. Now, they're gonna want to know, which the Zip dude, okay? If you do your research and you find out who this Zip person is, like, they got paid to have this hit on Tupac happen, right? Because right now they're saying, oh, you know, it was from the Las Vegas thing, but when Keefe D admitted to it in the proffer, he talked about it being a hit paid by somebody. So if they're going after the people who are still alive, whoever paid for the hit is still alive, right? So that's what I'm interested to see. Or if it's even going to go that far. Because they may only go as far as trying to get Keefe and the driver. And then case closed, which I don't think would be very justified if, you know, everyone admitted, essentially, except for the driver. Because I believe the Zip dude, like, confessed to it as well or something. And he's the one who said that they got paid for a hit. Now, whoever paid him for that hit, I mean, they should be arrested too or brought up on charges, right? Right? So, and the person who paid for that hit is living large. I mean, allegedly paid for the hit, okay? We don't know that for sure. This is all what Keefe D said, because again, can you believe everything he says? I don't know, because he's already lied. And then now when he's going in interviews, he's like, I don't know who shot him. But there's other shit where he's on recording saying, I know exactly who shot him. He was holding this, so on and so forth. So we'll see. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments your guys' thoughts. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, share it, all that good stuff. And I'll see you later.